this is for the one who ain't never had a love, yeah. This one's for the girl who don't feel like she's enough, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one's for the cool kid playing on the school team, crying to himself cause he never had the prom queen. Head full of wants, but they said it's just a pipe dream, yeah. This one's for the kids like me, they never had one thing. The ladies always turn their cheek, but they ain't let the fat ones sing. This one's for the kids like me, kept working when they had nothing. When people try to take their dreams, they stuck it to them, please don't change. For the nerds and the misfits, bullied by the rich kids, feel like they're alone even though they never did shit. Binging anime to find somebody they could fit with. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Having some technical stuff. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How we doing out there? Now, fun fact, I have no clue about how that intro just went, because from my end, when I clicked on the pre-roll and when I clicked on the intro, my whole screen kind of froze up. So I was just trying to time this without having any visualization. So I'm hoping this episode goes well and it's not ridiculously glitchy. That's also why I was like kind of muted to start. But on that note, I hope we're getting going. How's it going, everybody? I appreciate everyone out there that is watching. This is episode 180 of the Alex Cuesta Show. It is October 1st, 2025. We are officially into the nitty gritty, into the fun stuff. It is spooky season. It's Halloween season. And unfortunately, it is one of the weeks that David is not here with us. He's working, doing his thing as always, but I'm here holding it down, ready to have some fun. So before we get into all the fun stuff, I'd appreciate if everybody like, share, follow, subscribe wherever they are watching from, whether it is Facebook, X, YouTube, Kick, Rumble. We appreciate all you. And if you are listening to this later via podcast form, make sure 5 stars is what you give and that you leave comments and all that good stuff. So, Nate coming in saying, must be using Dave's internet. No, you know what the problem is, Nate? Is that I looked because I use this computer to go and edit all the things before. And like every once so often, I'll like go and check like my PC space. I don't want it to get too jammed. And I have like a megabyte left. So I'm kind of screwed. I need to like clear my computer out and that'll help me run faster. And yes, I do have some externals, but I don't put it onto there right away. So I just need to clear this out and it should run smoother and without any other hitch. Caveat ties, what's going on? Nice to see the gang slowly piling in here. So last week's show, Dave was here with me. We had a good time. We talked with Mitsu and we had a great time talking about what he's doing on coming back, hopefully on Twitch to start streaming more, some censorship and things like that. So it was a fun show, fun episode to go talk with Mitsu. I hope everyone goes back and gives that a watch. But this week, I'm having some fun as I always do. And one of the things that I've enjoyed doing, and the beauty of having your own show, is you get to book whatever guest you freaking want. And with that, I get to have some of the local politicians that are around our way and things like that. And obviously, for those that have been listening and keeping score at home, I am running for local office as well. I'm running for my town board over here. So I've gotten to meet and gotten to talk to a whole bunch of people that are within our peripheral, whether they're town, whether they're state, whether they're county. So it's been pretty cool. And this individual is running for re-election for county legislature. So let's bring him in. He is Ryan Travelpiece. He is the representative over at Dutchess County for District 2, running for re-election. Ryan, what's going on, my man?
Sorry, I don't have quite the same lighting that you do, but how are you?
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me on.
I absolutely appreciate it. 100%. This is going to be a good time. I think We've recently had on Will Truitt not too long ago, and that went well. Last year, I had on Bill Reuter, and I just enjoy talking to, all of the individuals that are running for local and stuff like that. So I really appreciate you now joining that lineage of the local individuals coming on here 100%.
Well, you've mentioned names. I think highly of both of those individuals. A great guy. He's the chair of the legislature. So, and a young guy, but he's been at it for 10 years. So he really knows his stuff. It was great coming in with somebody that's a seasoned veteran in there and had it on the town board for a long time as well. So friends and in good company. So thanks, Alex.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's get right into the nitty gritty with you, because, like you mentioned, and like I mentioned, you are already a sitting legislator on the New York, Dutchess County legislature over there. So, first thing that I want to ask you for people that maybe don't know, because I think I'm from Jersey. We don't have a county legislature in Jersey typically. So, coming up here into New York, I didn't know too much about that structure. So, first, for the people at home, excuse me, what does a county legislator actually do that's maybe different
Yeah.
from your town or your state and what goes on there?
Yep. It's funny. I get this question a lot. It's really, when I introduce myself to individuals, I can kind of see what that is first before this conversation goes any further. So happy to do that. When you're thinking about government, right, you can think about the legislative branch, you have the judicial branch.
So,
That
Ryan,
down,
real quick,
right?
can you
So
do
you
me a
have
quick favor? Because so
yeah.
they're saying that you're cutting out. Yeah. So do you mind
Oh,
popping in and out? Yeah, they said you're cutting out. Do you mind popping out of the show real quick and popping back in? Sometimes that helps. Oh, he's freezing up there. All right, so there he goes. He's popping out. He's popping back in. Caveat, thank you so much for jumping in and saying that. Hopefully we can get that fixed. That's always the beauty, right? We go on and before we talk, and here he goes. He's back. Ryan, let's see. Are you back?
I don't know. You tell me. How are we doing?
Yeah, sometimes that helps. It's kind of like pressing on and
Okay.
off on on like just a regular thing. So
It's
can you take that
IT
from the top?
101.
Yeah, can you take that from the
Yeah.
top real quick? So what does a county legislator do?
Perfect. So I'll preface it with the fact that I explain this often, so no trouble at all. So when I explain it to people, I tell them it's the same form of government at the federal level trickles all the way down, right? So at the federal level, you have the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch, right? And then you go down to the state, you have the same in New York State. They call it, the Senate and Assembly. And on the county level, you have the county executive, you have the legislative, and then you have judicial. Even on the county level, we have a couple people running for that right now. But in that vein, the legislative branch has what we call the power of the purse, right? So it is budgeting and appropriations. County executive sets the budget, okay, and then they hand it down to us, and we take a look over it. There's some deliberating that happens even prior to that budget being created, right? We make sure that the executive understands like the needs of our constituents and what we're advocating for. And hopefully we see a lot of that in that budget. If you don't, that's where the rubber kind of meets the road, and you deliberate a little bit more about, hey, this is, we talked about this. I think this is important. I need this in my community. And you're the advocate for your community. So that's what your legislator does for you on the county level.
And I'd imagine it's much.
Am I freezing
more,
again?
Not. No, you're good. No, you're good. I imagine it's much more simple,
Okay.
kind of on that lowerish level to maybe work across the aisle a little when you're at that county level than some of the things that we see go on at the state and federal level, because typically you guys are all still living 24/7 in the county, right? So it's not something where it's like a temporary time. I'm here and then I'm over there and I'm in like you guys are all in the county. So you guys are actually interested in getting those things done for the people, but also for yourself because you're a constituent as well of your own area. So it's something that I always like to say the more local that we get, the better it is. The more you have an impact when you are more local. So that's cool. It's just kind of like a microcosm of everything. So that's great. So with that out of the way, talking about what a county legislator does, I want to ask you, what made you want to run for county legislator initially before you actually got in?
I'll tell you my story, right? So, the existing county legislator that sat in District 2 was Don Sagliano. And he was retiring, he was moving down south, and he was vacating a seat. And so, Don and I knew each other. We actually attended the same church. And so he said, I think you'd be a great fit. And I told him, I'm not a politician, and he said, that's great. That's why we need you to do it, So we talked more about what the position was, right? And how my skills. So my day job, I'm a commercial lender. And so I think that really translates well to this position, right? So the way I kind of correlate the two is somebody comes to me with a business plan and a set of financials, and they're like, what do you think? Will you give me the money, right? It's kind of the same thing here. County executive will come to me with the budget, right? And then I take a look at what the budget is, the numbers, right? Which is 900 pages, $600 million budget. And what's the story? What's the story behind this, right? Do these two things really match, right? Are we going to get to our objective here with the way this budget's currently set up? So
now, really quick, Ryan, I just want to ask: do you have that group of 20 staffers that they maybe would have at the state and national level to like go over these 900 pages? Because God knows, like I like AJ and Senator Wallison and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they have staffs, right? Like they're in that more professional political level where they have a staff of group that when they get these 5, 6, 7, 800, 900 pages, while they're reading through as much as they can, they have a staff also taking this section, that section, because it's the only way to get through these massive bills, these massive papers. You, on the other hand, I can imagine maybe you have 1 or 2 people that help you, maybe an assistant, but you don't have those 20 people staffs, right? So you're stuck actually having to read these things more than likely.
You are correct, sir. So there is no robust staff. I will say that the legislature itself, we have three staffers that the legislature shares as a body. Okay. And honestly, they're fantastic. Yeah. So that's a lot of setting up the committee and the board meetings, drawing up resolutions, things like that. Right. So they're extremely helpful. But there is no personal aid, right? It's you and this budget. So, if you just take it page by page, right? You break it up into sections, schedule your time carefully, and you get through it.
So where was the learning curve with that? Because I remember, like, I do enjoy every once in a while, like if I see a hot button topic and it's a piece of legislation, this is all open to public, right? Like any of us can go access this stuff. So I was a history major. I've always liked politics. So for me, I enjoyed going and like, if there's a big Yahoo about something going on, I'll go read the actual bill because it's there. But there is so much legalese speak because everyone's a lawyer, right? Most of your major politicians are all lawyers of some way. So the way they write it is so much legalese. Was there a learning curve, and was there a lot of leaning on other individuals that have been there to be like, what do some of these things mean? Because you're seeing it over and over and over in some of these bills.
So I'll go back to my background. So in banking, it's very litigious. It's a very litigious business, right? So there is a lot of contract law. We're drawing up our loan documents and things like that, and we're negotiating covenants and the terms of these contracts and loan agreements all the time. So that is helpful. But yeah, to your point, I'll say the learning curve when I was going to go to my first committee meeting. You don't know who to lean on, who not to lean on. So you just kind of take it all on yourself. So I read every piece of literature that came through with these, with the funds and things like that. So when you look at the state funds, let's say, right? So those funds are mandated by New York State. So they come with a lot of rules and regulations. And one rule, right? You'll go that and you'll follow down that rabbit trail, which leads to more documentation and more documentation. And I spent just in one committee meeting hours sorting through all this paperwork, and I was really questioning my decision, and but some of these things are perfunctory, right? They happen every year. These are reoccurring funds. And so you don't take everything at face value, but some things you could say, hey, there's a precedence here, right? So let's take a look at what have these funds been doing historically? Are they continuing to do the same thing? And oh, by the way, New York State is take it or leave it, right? So we cannot negotiate the terms of those funds. They have to be applied exactly how they're mandated. So you can read through and understand why they're mandated that way, but at the end of the day, they're still going to be appropriated that way.
Nothing's worse than when I'm like scanning through a bill and then they use another previous bill to cite like this is where the precedent come from, and it's like, come on, I'm already reading your 40 pages. I don't want to go find another one, because they never actually put the section where they're doing it either. They just say as said in X, Y, and Z, HR, blah, 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 or whatever. And it's like, come on, at least give me the section so I can go to it.
But Alex, I'll tell you, that's how you become an autocrat, right? That's how you go down that rabbit hole, because you're trying to ascertain one piece of knowledge here, and so then you realize, wow, there's a whole body of work. There is decades of things that happen to put this in place, and if you continue down that trail, the amount of knowledge that you take in, and it's not just the fact that you're taking the knowledge, you can now apply it, right? You have something that you can apply it to, right? It's not just learning. Like when you're in school, it's like, well, I'm told I have to learn this, and maybe eventually you'll connect some of the dots and you'll get an aha moment. But when you're actually trying to do the work, right, and you're building, backwards off of doing the work, that's where the rubber meets the road. So it can be exciting.
It can be. And, Caveat Ties coming in here with the comment saying lawyers write laws for lawyers by lawyers, so only lawyers can understand, thus needing more lawyers. So, yes. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it is, the lawyer will never not have a job because they protect each other, right? That they, without them, and there's so many different parts of law, right? Whether you're going into, like you said, like you're in the banking side, so a lot of real estate law, a lot of like, that type of law, or constitutional law. And there's so much that you can get into, and the precedents set are different for everyone. But government is kind of where they have this whole smorgasbord, right? Because you'll have references to each of those fields of law in maybe one giant bill. And so question for you there, because again, people may be ignorant to the county side. Do you guys have these massive giant bills that we always hear about? Like obviously the budget's big, right? Because the budget's massive. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But do you guys make these gigantic 100, 200 page bills over in the county side, or you try to be courteous to each other and keep it to maybe 20 to 50 pages, like something that is digestible?
Yeah, so the resolutions that we write are a little different than if you were writing a law, right? So we really don't write a lot of laws. So the 2 years I was in there, I think we wrote one law, and it was it was voted in unanimously, so that's good, and it was an environmental protection law, so that's another good thing. But for the most part, there isn't a lot of that. And if you are going to do that, then you are going to get a lot of help, right? The county executive's office has robust amount of staff, right? There's different departments, and you're going to talk to each one of those departments. You're going to make sure that they understand what your goals are for it. Okay. And a lot of that did happen with that law that we wrote. So to answer your question, like there's constantly resolutions, right? So every month we have resolutions we have to pass, and those are your standard like whereas clauses, and then let it be resolved, right? So we are identifying, hey, these are the issues at hand, and since these exist, right? This is kind of legalese as well. But since these things exist, we all agree that these exist, then let it be resolved that we're going to resolve it this way. So and those are not overly done.
So right now, too, you at least while you're sitting as a county legislator, you have the value of having an executive that is, in the same party, right? Obviously, Sir Serino is there, and if I'm not mistaken, Will says you guys are the majority right now, right? The Republicans,
We
we
are,
have the
yes.
majority, so there's value in sitting there, right? With having the majority and being able to kind of get things done that the executive wants done and you guys want to get done, and so there's a real importance there in if you live in Dutchess County, if you're local like us and you have enjoyed the way Dutchess County has been run for at least the last few years that you've been in there, right? It's important that we get out as Republicans and we make sure
Yeah.
that we go and we vote for Ryan and we vote for all the other Republicans that are up for reelection because um you know uh, having Executive Serino is great, but she can't do it on her own. We don't have dictators in this country. That's not the types of things that we do. So we need, Ryan to get back in. We need Will Truitt at comptroller because we need somebody that is looking over the purse strings that we can trust.
Yeah.
We need, Sue Serino there. So this is super important that we have this, and that like every election, there's a real chance that it can always be lost. So we really need to work hard to do this. So, as you've been in there, what would you say have been your accomplishments as a legislator? Something that you've hung your hat in, that you've helped, form, lead, things like that while you were there.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I appreciate you. Thank you for the question. So I would say, I came in with the goal of fiscal responsibility, right? So I took a look. You have a $600 million budget, as we said. Where's this money going, right? So I'm a believer in small government. Government cannot be all things to all people, right? You have to be very intentional. By the way, am I frozen in the upper left-hand corner or am I moving? Because I'm looking over
You're
here.
moving. You're good. Yeah,
Okay,
sometimes
good.
it's weird. You're good. You're good. You're moving.
All right, because what I see is I have quite a look on my face. I'll leave and come back. Yeah.
No,
Right,
you're
good.
okay right now. You're okay still.
All right,
Listen, the chat lets us know. Nate over there in
good.
Caveat, they'll let us know if you're frozen. Don't worry.
Good, thank you. Good. So small government, right? That was my mindset going in, not being all things to all people. And so in that vein, we made sure that we were very specific and targeted on how we spent the money. And since we did that, we were able to lower taxes by 2.7%. So that is something that I'm very proud of, right? And you have to be careful, right? You have a tax cap. Okay. So if you're going to lower the taxes, you have to make sure that you're forward thinking and forward looking as well. So that, next year, if you did have to raise taxes, right, if you didn't plan it accordingly, you could all of a sudden hit a tax cap and not be able to meet budget, right? So there's a lot of planning in that, but we're proud to say we were able to lower taxes this year. And so while you can't be all things to all people, there are necessary things that have to get done, right? You have your Department of Public Works, roads, and in my opinion, one of the things that I wanted to focus on was public safety. So I feel like public safety is paramount. If you don't have public safety, if you don't feel safe in your community, you have nothing. Nothing else matters at that point. Someone's going to be really upset if they hit a pothole. If they feel like they can't walk out their front door, they're not going to be bothered by that pothole. So that's issue one, right? So what we did, right? We identified areas of concern throughout the county. Now, mostly you look around at our communities, right? And for the most part throughout the county, you say, hey, these are nice, quiet, safe neighborhoods. We want to keep it that way. But there's some areas of the county that you can't say that, right? And so one area I will say that we identified was EMS. So EMS response times were protracted. They were not meeting their requirements, not in all instances, but in some. Now, I will say in New York State, it is not a essential service. Okay, so one of the first things we did is we wrote a letter.
Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah, amazing. Wow. So we wrote a letter to the governor, a bipartisan letter. Everyone signed it and said, hey, this is something that has to be essential. This is a public safety issue, and it's unacceptable. Now, almost every municipality has their own EMS. There's some that don't, okay, and they will lean on a neighboring municipality for some kind of mutual aid. There's gripes, and I won't get into that's more of a town issue, right? But what we saw was like, hey, sometimes you have to come in, step in, right, and say, hey, some of these towns are not doing what they need to do. We came up with a supplemental EMS service. We took $2 million. We contracted an outside agency to come in and supplement some of these local municipalities that were not meeting their response times. And so what we also did, though, and I wanted to be clear about this when I agreed to it, is it also created a system of accountability. Okay, so we are tracking how many calls we're going on, right, throughout the county and where we're going on the calls. And then we're having frank conversations with these local municipalities about the level of service they're providing to their constituents, because what you don't want is you.
One thing
Sorry,
I
go
always
ahead.
want to know about, that's okay. One thing I always want to know about these things is when you're looking at this, is there a conversation of going, okay, we allocated this, we have the outside. Is there going to be a sunset to this? Is there a time where we're expecting these municipalities to kind of get it in order? Maybe if they're like a smaller village and they really don't have that, okay, are they working harder with the larger ones to help them out and stuff? Like, because like
Yeah,
I feel like, you're a small government guy, so you'll agree with this. Once those funds start to get allocated, typically they
yeah.
only balloon, right? Okay, 2 million is not enough anymore. Now we're going to need 4. Now we need 6. So when you're looking at this, is this something where you're writing it up and going, we need a sunset by X amount of years? We need to make sure that, or at least a sunset on it, so then it can go away. So you have to rewrite that bill and, so it's not just an automatic refresh. Because I think that's what we see a lot of times at different parts of government.
No, it's a great question, Alex. Yeah, and insightful. So, and it was mentioned, right? So we made it very clear that this is not your service. This is a supplement to a service you should already be providing. And it's also the reason we're collecting the data. So two schools of thought there, right? One is, do we have a conversation about how much that service was used, right? And then what the how that is going to, what are the ramifications for that for the local municipality?
Yep.
There could be like a budgeting issue with that, right? Because their budget's got to be set in advance. Could we back bill them? That I don't love as much. Another possibility could be, maybe a countywide EMS. There's not really issues, but there's a lot of planning that has to go into that. So these local municipalities have their own assets, right? So sometimes they have their own staff, right? They do have their own staff. They have their own ambulances, right? What happens there? Or does the county lease those back from, and do we then, what we wouldn't want to do, we wouldn't want to employ the staff, right? So would we then allow them to continue, and then the ones that want to sign on, right, they do sign on. We'd have to also for taxing authority, right? So we would have to, create new tax zones for that. So similar to the way fire is,
It's like interesting with that too, because
districts,
it's like
taxing
like you're
districts.
saying it, if I'm out in, a quiet part like Millbrook, I'm not going to want to subsidize a place that has significantly more calls. So it's like, and I understand that's like a tough thing to look at, right? Because you as a county legislator, you're trying to serve your constituents, and obviously you're trying to do right by the county to help out everyone. But then at the same time, it's like, this is the push and pull of government, right? No one's ever going to be all happy. You're going to have to make the best decision for the county, and then as it goes, figure out. So this is where, like, I don't envy you at all. I don't envy anybody as it gets higher, because everybody sees like some of the glitz and glam. It's like, okay, you can walk in and you're a county legislator. People maybe might know who you are, and some people want that. But it's like, at the same time, you have to go through these things of going, okay, I know they may be upset, but this is the right thing here, and I think it's going to help overall. So I'm willing
Yeah.
to maybe, and you don't cover some of those smaller quiet areas, right? So that's talking with that individual who covers that district and being like, are you willing to take this,
Yeah.
and deal with it? And I
Alex, what
don't
you're
think
talking
people
about,
realize the
it's
intricacies of government.
yeah, what you're talking about is would that result in a redistribution of wealth, right? Are you
Yes.
saying, right? So an
Fact,
affluent
yeah, yeah.
community with a low population density that's not utilizing these EMS services very much versus, a more highly populated, maybe less affluent area that would be utilizing it more. That would be a redistribution of wealth. Yes. I would say there's going to be, in what we look at in business, economies of scale, right? So when you're contracting this agency, or it might need to be multiple agencies, right, for the entire county, you're going to get a better deal, right? You're also going to get efficiency from it, right? Because you're not just worried about this small area. You're saying, hey, like, let's be strategic about where we're placing these throughout this entire geographic area. And you're going to automatically create efficiencies with that. So again, and to be fair, so something like this would be a major undertaking. Guaranteed we would hire an outside agency to do a study, 100%. Because, and I will say this too, you cannot be the authority on all things, right? So you will quickly you'll just get buried, right? There's so many things that you touch in the county government. And so you have to rely on the professionals, right? So
100%.
But that being said, I think it's something to be proud of, that when you recognize that it's a public safety issue, right, and you put a stopgap in place, you can feel good about that,
100%.
Yep. So I'm happy about that. In the same public safety vein, I think you glitched there for a minute. Did you say something? Sorry.
I just said 100%. Yeah, I was agreeing with you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. In the public safety vein, I think what I focused on was the sheriff's office, right? They do a lot of good work. We put in first we reinvested in the drug task force. So that drug task force takes down the larger drug rings throughout the county. And we also provided them with a real-time crime center, which uses artificial intelligence to assist them in solving these crimes. That did not exist here previously, and every county south of us had a real-time crime center, which to me, I said, that sends a message, right? Let's send a different message. If you're going to commit crime, you better go do it someplace else, because we're serious about protecting our friends and neighbors.
So when you're looking at that too, and when you're looking at something like, the the real-time crime center and like the drug force, obviously fentanyl's been a hot button topic, all throughout the country. And we live next to the most important city in the world that has that problem, right? New York City is not a city that's away from that issue. And we do know that we have a lot of individuals that, the Hudson Valley is part of the working class of the New York City, right? Like we travel there to go to work. And a lot of the individuals that live there also have people that come up here. So have you found that that is one of the driving forces behind why you guys did that, because you wanted to tackle and be on top of this fentanyl crisis to prevent it from really festering and becoming a big issue in Dutchess County?
100%. And as a result, there was a reduction in overdose,
Fantastic.
Yeah. And that was, I will say when I was running, I went to a debate and somebody asked Will Truitt, because that was something he was very concerned with. I don't know if he was personally impacted through family or friend or whatever, but I wouldn't say that. But he was passionate about it, and it is a real issue. And so, this is one way that we found that we could help, solve that issue. Getting those drugs off the street. And it's in-depth undercover work that they're doing. So. A worthy effort. So again, something we're very proud of.
I love that. I'm going to jump to a few comments here. Caveat to I saying, nah, trust the government will let go of power once they don't need it anymore. Of course, right? Always do that. As a caveat, as I'm talking to a politician, be nice, caveat. And Nate G saying, glad my party days were pre-fentanyl. Yeah, I mean, there was always some bad stuff, but it's like fentanyl hits very different. And I'm happy, I've never really done any of that type of stuff. So I'm very happy, and I haven't been touched by that. And I pray that, we eradicate this crap and we make sure that we get it off our streets. So I'm curious.
I will tell you, Alex, in that vein though, so I was talking to a constituent, and they work for a local agency that deals with the drug addicted. And they said that most of what's going around is pure fentanyl. So somebody will go and think that they're purchasing heroin, and it's almost 100% fentanyl, and
Wow.
it's so much more deadly than heroin was terrible, and it's certainly deadly. But that was, and again, that there was no study on this, but this is the feedback I'm getting from people that are stakeholders and involved in it. So.
So, is there a push to try a drug dealer that is knowingly giving pure fentanyl for murder? Because obviously we like try drug dealers in a different vein, right? Attention to distribute and things like that. Like it's a class in its own. But I think we know enough about fentanyl now where if you're giving somebody pure fentanyl, bad enough if it's laced, right? But if you're giving
Yeah.
somebody pure fentanyl, you know what you're doing. You know you're killing that person. Like there is no question about it. Is Do we look at that at the county level? Is there something that can be done there to maybe try them for murder, premeditated if they know? Because I think that would
Hmm.
be a deterrent in getting these drug dealers to maybe think twice about, not the top ones because they don't care, but maybe the local ones don't want to, go to jail for murder. They know they might get a drug charge, they'll be out in a year or so, but murder is a little different. Has that been
Yeah.
something that's been kicked around?
So I'll tell you, I think I know who your next guest should be, right? So Ned McLaughlin, County Court Judge. He's up for
Yes.
reelection this year as well. Great guy, great guy. So
Yeah, Ned's fantastic. Yes.
again, I'm not a lawyer, but I know a little bit. So I would say when you charge somebody with a crime, you want to make sure it sticks. You have to make sure the
Yeah.
body of evidence is substantial enough. Otherwise, if you charge them with the wrong thing, let's say you go too far and they're not convicted of that crime, you can't go back and charge them with a lesser crime, right?
Nope.
So with that being said, I think that would be an initial concern, right? Like, hey, is this going to stick? And then also, is there a precedence, right? Because a lot of times that's how it's done. Getting that first one done is a very heavy lift, and again, for that reason, this individual could go scot-free, and not serve any time if we get this wrong, or we can't, and it's got to fit the law. The way the law is written, right? It cannot be court of public opinion. It's got to fit the law. And so that would be a net question. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, I think, that's it.
definitely.
I wanted to give you a little bit to chew on there. So,
No, I like that. And then, and that's the proper answer, right? And I think that's why it's good sometimes, as much as we rip on our politicians, and obviously I'm trying to enter into that realm and things like that, but a knowledgeable, honest politician from someone like you, who maybe you haven't been in there a while, but you're a student of it and you're learning it more and more, to give an honest answer like that. Like that's not the political answer of, well, maybe, but no, that is if we want to put the bad guys away, we need to make sure that we're doing the right
right.
thing, right? And that is why when the people will initially charge, like your cops and stuff, and people putting in the charges will initially have a slew of charges, but then they'll look it over, and that's why for something big like a grand jury will go, that's good, that's okay, we're not that will never see the light of day. And then from there a prosecutor can decide to take on the charges the grand jury says are legit or not. But that's like kind of the beauty of our legal process, right? Is where you can have that process of
Yeah.
elimination depending on the stature of the crime and stuff like that. So I have a quick question for you. We only see politicians for maybe like appearances like this on a podcast or from debates and things like that. But you have now gotten the opportunity to jump into the lion's den. So, how different is it when you're actually with somebody from like the Democratic Party and you're sitting next to them, and it's not like C-SPAN, there's no cameras, right? Like maybe some
Yeah.
sessions you'll have the live streams, right? But for the most part, you guys are there, you're with each other a good amount. How different is it from the theater that we see when it's campaign time or there's a debate or it's on TV versus when you're actually sitting across from them and a legitimate issue comes up that maybe you have true legitimate disagreements on? But
Yes.
is it incredibly different to sit across from them and be like, okay, this is what I want. What do you want? And is it easy? Do you find that it's easier to compromise when you're actually sitting there having those real discussions with a real person that you maybe actually really like outside of the political setting, right? Like you might be the
Right.
same sports fans, you might have the same age kids doing things. So what is the difference now that you're in there and these politicians aren't just people on a screen or on a card and things like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Alex. So I do not mind at all if we have a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
And you can, if you can really articulate your position and explain to me why you think the way you do, why you think it's the best course of action, right? And I think I'll probably get you to change your mind, come over to my side, but we could talk about it, right? And it's got to be civil. What I have a difficult time with is when I feel like someone's doing it for the political theater, when there's an ulterior motive behind what they're doing and what they're saying. I have a very difficult time with that, because it's disingenuous. And again, it's often thinly veiled, and it just really rubs me the wrong way. And it's like, that's not what we're here for. We're here to do the right thing. If you believe it's the right thing, great. But if you're doing this to, build some kind of case, bolster your position, try to get to the next level of government, and you see it, that's when it really gets tough.
And I could find that being unfortunate, right? If you have somebody that's just looking at this county level as a stepping stone to state or at the federal, right? And then they're not there. They're only there to battle with talking points and popular things and not actually get the job done. They want their press snippet, right? And I can imagine how tedious that is. But I could also find that maybe you have people that have been there for a little while that are serious about it. And those will maybe be the ones that you could talk to and go say, hey, what is your finite on this topic and what's your gray area? I'll give you my finite and my gray area. And then let's see if we can make something work together. Because I feel like that is, everyone has their, okay, this is my bedrock on this issue that I'm not giving up, but maybe I'm willing to talk a little bit about this. And you may find that you guys have something similar there. Have you found that as well as you've been there with some of the people that are more serious about it?
100%. And I'll give you a perfect example, right? So we have the majority. So at the end of the day, unless it's a bonding issue, if we need to put a bond out and we have to vote on it, we would need some bipartisan support there. But at the end of the day, most of the resolutions we're putting through, we don't need the other side of the aisle. We can push them through with our majority. We were able to craft a budget that was almost entirely, it was almost unanimously accepted. It was accepted with bipartisan support and significant bipartisan support. There's only one or two holdouts on that budget process. So that is a testament to Will, right? And to what you were saying earlier is somebody's doing it for the right reason, right? 10 years he sat in that legislative seat because he wanted to do it. He's only stepping up to comptroller now because he feels like it's something he's compelled to do it. He did not have this grandiose scheme right from the beginning. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to serve 10 years on the legislature, and then I'm going to go for it, right? No, he was like, you know what? The time is now. We need a strong candidate. We need somebody with the skill set to do it. And again, I know I'm touting Will, and the reason is, and I'll tie it back. This is like a Trump thing. I'm doing a weave. You know the weave he does. So I'll tie it back because he is the chair of the legislature, right? I give a lot of the credit to him and his ability to get that budget through with bipartisan support. So that's a perfect example of getting everybody to work together when you don't have to.
Quickly on Will Truitt, as much as Will might hate to hear this on campaign season, I want him to be comptroller, but man, Will's a national level talent in the Republican Party. Will, if he wants to, I think the sky's the limit for him, and he's still ridiculously young. So I could really see Will would be an amazing comptroller, and I know he's incredibly dedicated to Dutchess County and doing what's right, but I think we need to be smarter in the Republican Party about noticing our young talent, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. Where I think Will can definitely be that guy, but on top of that, it's good to hear that you guys are at least trying to do those things, and I think we need to change the way we talk about things. I love the way you said it, where it was like we had a big, a legitimate bipartisan, right? Because I always hate when I see it's bipartisan and one person from the other side came on. We should say it is slimly bipartisan. Like we should like redo the way we say things.
Be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, because like bipartisan makes it sound like, both sides really wanted it. A few holdouts, like similar to what you said. But it's like sometimes it's just like, nope, one person came over. So now we call it bipartisan. It's like, no, it's not bipartisan. Like just because one person did it doesn't mean that like the both sides like are cool with it. So that's just me being, picky with the syntax and semantics and stuff there.
The details.
So I want to jump into a little more of the county issues that you see upcoming. That obviously you're in there right now, so you have a little bit of a glimpse into the future of what you guys are trying to accomplish. So what are some of the issues for your next term when you get reelected? Because I like to speak in positives here, not if, when, damn it. When you get reelected, what are the issues that are facing Dutchess County that you see?
Yeah, so I think housing is affordable housing is a real issue. Talking to my constituents, they don't always see that as a problem. But I will say, if you don't have affordable housing, you're not going to have the mix, the demographic you need, and the labor market that you need. That creates a real issue, right? And so what we were able to do in 22. The county executive and performed a study and identified the need for more affordable housing, and we started the Housing Trust Fund. So that is funded through 2025, right? So we still have funds in there. It's the funds are already allocated to the jobs necessary, and so I think that's something that we'll be looking forward to tackling in the upcoming election. And for me, more of the same, right? Being specific and targeted in how we show up for our county. I know Dutchess Community College is probably going to be looking for some funds in the near future. It's a great institution. It does a lot of good. It provides the opportunity for a lot of people that wouldn't have the opportunity for higher education and could be like a springboard for them, and look, almost every other county, has their own community college as well, and so I want to see their plan, what I spoke to them about, they kind of alluded to the fact that they need to make some investments. And when you have an asset, you got two choices. You can let it crumble, okay, or you can reinvest. Okay. That's the reality of it. So, but again, we have to be strategic and focused and targeted. I want to see results, right? So if they're asking for funds, I want to understand where these funds are going and how that's going to pay us back, and pay us back in the way of more enrollment. Okay. More in-person enrollment. And there is a strategy to that too. About they have these centers of excellence now where a lot of the study has to take place in person, right? So there's a bit of a premium for that you can charge as opposed to these online classes and the way the world going that way. So, it's good, but I was very clear that, this ask has to come with the business plan behind it, right?
So I
want to focus on.
I will say this: DCC has a great reputation, in terms of community college. They're one of the better community colleges around. And and the thing is, like, with the way higher education has been going, I understand that everyone, especially people on our side, kind of maybe being timid towards talking about funding another higher education spot, but when it comes to people in the area and even people outside, like we have people from Ulster, Orange, Putnam coming to DCC just because it has a really good reputation for a 2-year with a rare having people on campus, which is rare for a community college, that they have dorms. And, like I said, it has to be right. And I agree with you that, you want to see the business plan, you want to see what it is, but with their reputation and with all the good that they do as, being a springboard to so many different SUNYs, where there's so many people that do use DCC to go to the SUNY programs and things like that. So that's a place that, me as well, being a small government person, I would prefer most colleges not getting public funds, but with the reputation DCC has and how good they've been, like you said, it's an investment, right? And as long as they were willing to make it pay off for us in the county, that's not a bad thing to look at.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Alex, too. The way that it's structured is 33%. So the county funds 33%, the tuition should fund 33%, and the state kicks in the other 33%, right? So as tuition increases, our 33% that we kick in actually gets higher. But there is a baseline, right? That is a large piece of real estate, right? And there's significant amount of overhead for that real estate.
Yep.
So again, it's that school of thought. Are we going to keep this asset? Like, I hope so, right? I think we have to really keep it. We
Yeah.
can't just
Yeah.
say, yeah, we have a community college, it's only digital, you know. So we have this asset. Again, you invest in it, or it goes the other way, and that's not going to serve anyone,
And they need
you
to
know.
maintain
So
affordability as a community college, right? Because as you said, the tuition goes up, sure, but
yeah,
part of having a community college is the fact that it's affordable for individuals that maybe can't go to these other institutions yet, and they're using the community to work, save up money, and maybe get a scholarship with good work. Because obviously the SUNYs look at that, and if you're good at DCC, there's a chance they'll offer you a transfer scholarship over to one of the major ones. But if you're priced out and you're looking at a community college being like $10,000, that's a lot for people that aren't necessarily, they don't
yeah,
want to take out a loan to go to a community college. Most people don't want to do that.
right.
So there is, I guess, that tightrope too, where you'd obviously have to talk to the administrators there, being like, we can't price out our community if you're a community college. That doesn't work, especially it's right in Poughkeepsie. The city of Poughkeepsie is right there, and that demographic benefits a ton from DCC being affordable. There's so many people that are able to pull themselves out of the city of Poughkeepsie and do really good
Yeah,
things from what DCC offers from their certificate programs. A lot of them too. They have great certificate programs there. So, and again, this is also, not to put anything on you, but this is to show people what you really are going to. And this is just at the county level, right? Like, this is just going on to like
yeah,
the
yeah,
things that you have to look at and you have to deal with just in your level. And and obviously you're a thinking person. So it's fantastic that you're willing to listen, you're willing to think, you're willing to talk it out. And it's great. So with the housing thing, I'm curious too, is there, because I deal with young kids every day. I'm a driving instructor over in the area. One of the issues that young kids tell me all the time is it is incredibly hard for them at 16, 17 to go find their first job, because a lot of those first
oh,
jobs
okay.
are filled with adults that are working in these
Hmm.
places. Is there a targeted effort? Because obviously housing's important, right? But is there a targeted effort to get some of these adults out of these minimum wage jobs and trying to figure out a way to get them careers? Because I feel like that would kind of also
Yeah.
help you guys out in the affordable housing sphere, right? Where if you don't have to bring those prices down as much because these individuals are making a good wage, again, that's a lot of math and things that go in there and conversations that are I'm not privy to, right, with what's going on. But has that been something that's been talked about in order to maybe get some of these kids back in these jobs that are lower paying first time jobs and get these adults that shouldn't necessarily be working these first time level jobs into jobs more that are career based?
Yeah, it's an interesting way that you put it. You know, but I can see the vein that you're traveling in. So, what we'll do is we'll invest in different programs,
Mhm.
right? So, and a lot of times it's public and private partnership. That's how government wins, right? We are not great at operationally running a program, right?
Yeah, no, government's
But
terrible
we
when they run
can.
things.
Yeah, it gets very expensive.
Yes,
That's really
yes,
what it comes down to.
exactly.
There's a lot of regulations. There's a lot of red tape.
Mhm.
Things move very slow. You have to be nimble. And so, that being said, so one of the ways that we reinvest is through BOCES, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
you have these technical programs, right? You have DCC, right? So you create these avenues where an individual can educate themselves, and maybe try to your point, move on and progress.
Yep.
There's also things that we do through that public-private partnership, like let's say through the IDA, so Industrial Development Agency. We also have the Economic EDC, Economic Development Corporation. So these provide some subsidies to businesses, right? So it could be what you call maybe like a pilot program,
Mhm.
which is payment in lieu of taxes, things like that to bring industry into the county. Okay. So, and every county does it, every state does it. We are all battling against each other to try to say, no, that's why Dutchess County is the right place for you to have your business. You're going to bring it here, and in return, you're going to bring those jobs.
I know Amazon's
right?
been great for
So,
Fishkill. Amazon, so many people go and
yeah,
work at that Amazon that has had to be paid for itself already in terms of how many jobs it's provided. So many people look to go work there. That was a great investment. Thank you, AOC, for denying that in the city and letting us grab it because that's our benefit.
perfect.
Her
Yeah.
being dumb is great for
Yeah.
us. So
She's like, oh, no, we don't need jobs. Get out of here.
we don't need that big
Who
corporation
needs
there. It's like, no,
jobs?
okay, great. Let's get people, decent paying jobs in our area instead. Thanks. Like, oh my God.
Amazing.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So that's what we do, right? So we try to bring private industry, we try to partner with not-for-profits, we partner with higher education, all in the hopes, and again, that these individuals take advantage of some of these things. But yeah, you have to make sure the jobs are there. And so as you know, with my background in banking, that was another passion of mine coming in. So
I love it. So we hear about you, the politician, and I think people get a good idea of the person that you are in terms of the political realm, what you're trying to do. I want to start talking about Ryan Travelpiece, the person, though. Who is Ryan Travelpiece, the person? What are
okay.
some of the things that, tell us a little about yourself? Start off with that. Tell me a little bit about you that you want people to know about you.
Yeah, so I mean, you already know the work, right? So I'm a banker. That's my day job. But I have a family. I live in Lagrange. I have 3 kids. Love them. So we have Aubrey's 12, Ethan's 10, Nora's 6. So they're all involved in a lot. So my oldest Aubrey's on 3 different soccer teams.
Oof.
So she's on a travel team, she's on a tournament team, and she just made her modified team for middle school.
Nice.
She just twisted her ankle, so she's out for right now. She sprained her ankle, so thank God, a little PT, she'll be back at it. But she loves that, so she found her thing. My middle guy, he's soccer and taekwondo.
Nice.
And yep. And Nora, the youngest, she's doing cheer, first year in cheer. Never knew I was going to be a cheer dad, but here I am. I'm a cheer dad and dance, and so those 2 things merit. And she just told us, she's like, I'm missing soccer this year. And I think my wife's head was going to like explode, She's like, she goes in a million different directions, God bless her. She supported me taking on this county legislator job, which takes up a lot of time after hours.
Yeah.
My work, I drive down to Rockland 2 to 3 days a week. The other 2 or 3 days I could work remote, or there's a more local office. But yeah, I got to be down there, and so it's a lot to do. And she's amazing. So. I wouldn't be able to do it without her. Let's put it that way. So,
and I think I want to let people know, and people need to realize at the county level, this, obviously we had Will on, we've had you on. This is not that glamour paid, you're only a politician position. This is is your second job. This is something where you're giving up extra your time. And I think that, it's kind of a travesty that when you get hired, it becomes your only job to be a politician. I think that it's, as much as it's a task for you, it's going to be a task for me when I win and get in. It's worth it, right? Because then it makes it all the better that person is, like I said, truly invested in their town, because you have kids that are there. So I've always thought, like, for me, it's like people complain that in the federal, like, they're not working enough. I'm like, I want them working less. I want them here. I want them living in their district,
right.
living in their areas, living in their states, in DC less, and listening to us so that they can draft a bill for their constituents, not for what's going to work for the nation, because you shouldn't care about the nation, right? And I think it's so much better that you have your family here, you're invested in here. Obviously, all your kids are going to school in Dutchess County, so it just makes you again want to be successful here, and it just makes it easier to work with people that also want the success of Dutchess County, whether they're Democrat or Republican, because we are all living here. So it's difficult, and I want people to realize the sacrifice that you're making it's not a glamour position. You're not making 100, 200,000, the salaries that they're making. You're not getting
a fraction of
yeah,
that.
you're not getting any insider trading deals where you get to make decisions. And then I just
No.
happen to buy stocks on that, even though I'm a part of the, that doesn't exist. There is none of that. So first, I just want to thank you for, giving up all of your time and now giving up extra time to campaign and do something like this where you could be getting extra sleep, hanging out with your wife right now. But instead, you're doing a podcast because you're trying to win re-election to keep on doing the right thing for the county. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, thank you, Alex. And I will say this job is what government was meant to be, right? So our founding fathers formed the government. The intention was everybody comes off the farm, right? We sit down, we go through the issues, we make our decisions, we go back to work.
Yep.
It was never meant to be a career. And that's what county legislature, and that's why I like it. People ask me, they're like, would you ever go further? And I tell everyone, I'm like, the only way I would ever go further is if I had some kind of, substantial real estate portfolio that was funding, gave me a baseline, or my own business that ran somewhat autonomously, because I think everybody goes into government with good intention. And then somewhere along the line, it just turns into, hey, how do I get reelected, right? Because this is all I got.
Yep.
This is my career, right? And they start making the wrong choices for the wrong reasons. In county government, I want this job. I think I do a good job. I think I bring value. My colleagues tell me that they're happy to have me there. They appreciate what I bring. I think I do a good job of bringing people together and being cohesive, listening to each other. And so I want to continue it. If I did not win, it would not change my life, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really doing it because I have a family here. I have a vested interest in the success of my community. I want to keep it affordable and safe so my kids can raise their family here.
And
that's the idea.
And, we could be honest about it. The lobbyists aren't as legit in the county. They don't have as much at stake in the county, where they have a lot of stake in New York State. They have a lot at stake in the federal. So, and I think that's where a lot of people get to go wrong, right? Because the lobbying becomes real. And it's not that they're getting kickbacks, but they're definitely getting influence or rubbing elbows with people they never thought they'd rub elbows with. And it's more of even if your pay isn't amazing, your position that you're feeling and the fact that you could pick up the phone and make a phone call to this executive, some people really love that, right? And that's something they thrive on. And that's, like you said, then it becomes about reelection and less about the job and more about, I just want to get back to that seat. And, it's fortunate the people I've met at the state level on our side. I mentioned, Rob Allison, I mentioned AJB fan. Those two are doing it for the right thing. Good. They are good people. They will sit there and shake your hand. And, at the picnic, I talked to I still call him Mayor Rollison because he was a mayor of Poughkeepsie, but I talked to Senator Rollison, and he gave me half an hour of his time and just talked to me, and we had a conversation. And you don't get there, and especially because Senator Rollison has family that was also in that state house, so he doesn't have to sit there and just talk to some random guy running for local government. But he is a Poughkeepsie person. He wants to be involved. He likes that I'm running here. And that's the type of passion that you get from someone that wants to do the right thing. I might not always agree with what they do all the time, but I know that they're there for the right reason. I might not always agree with everything that Ryan wants to do at the county level, but I know he's trying to do it at the best way possible.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
I agree with everything. Elect him and do everything that he wants, darn it.
What don't you do? Let's talk about it. I'm kidding. So no, Rob, he's a great example. What are you going to say? Go ahead. I'm going to
say, so I want you to give a little bit of inside baseball on yourself. What is something that you like, enjoy, maybe a dirty little pleasure that most people don't know about you?
That's interesting. So I wasn't expecting that. All right. I like to garden. And when you say, I do. It's I don't get to do it as much anymore, but when you say garden, everybody's like, oh yeah, like tomatoes, cucumbers, flowers.
Nice.
Like I will walk into I will walk into someone's yard and I will start complimenting them on their garden. They're like, "Oh, thanks so much," and then I start naming all the different plants that they have, and they're like, "Oh, you like really know this," and I'm like, "Oh yeah," and I'm like, "How did you get that to grow? How did you get that allium to grow?" You know, they always die on me, and then they're like, "Oh, you're probably overwatering it," you know, and so it's really funny, but yeah, I'll tell you how I got into it. So at my previous house from this one, I had this hill. It was horrible to mow it, you know, and my mother-in-law was really into flowers. And so I said, "Hey, look, can you just get me something that'll just cover that whole hill?" And it's, you know, it's rocky, it's this, that. She goes, "Oh, you don't want just one thing. That's boring." And I was like, "Okay, like a couple things, you know." Oh my gosh. So I went all in, you know. Now I'm like moving rocks because it needs to be aesthetic, you know. Oh, I'm sticking this here. And yeah, I became a gardener. So that is, yeah. And it's actually, it's a labor of love. When it's all done, you know, you can sit back and be like, wow, you know, I crafted that. So
That's awesome. You know, and I think that's a cool thing too, because that also like it definitely makes you more relatable on the campaign trail, right? Because when you go over and some people have really nice setups. And for me, I'd look and be like,
yeah,
that's a pretty cool flower. For you, you can actually have a conversation and you know, people do enjoy when
yeah,
you're investing time in them too. And it's not like non-genuine, it's genuine. Like you like flowers. So, you know, like it's like for me, I'm a sports guy. So if I see someone that has like a sports flag or if I'm walking around on a Sunday trying to campaign and butting into their football time, like I'll ask about the score because I'm legitimately curious because I have no idea what the score is. So, you know, those things are
yeah.
good. Now I'll give you my funny flowering story. So for one summer,
Okay,
I
yeah.
worked at a plant nursery because my girlfriend at the time, her uncle owned a plant nursery and landscaping thing. And so they had me out there selling plants. Now, where I grew up in New Jersey is one of like the old people capitals on the planet. I'm on the Jersey Shore. And my town, little town of Manchester, has more elderly communities than it does other human beings. Like it is ridiculous how many elderly communities are there. So they like their flowers as well. So they would come in there and they had me selling flowers. Now, part of the thing about selling flowers is you get questions about the flowers. I didn't, nor do I still know a damn thing about flowers. So
You just made it up.
people
Tell me you made it
people would
up.
ask me like, "Oh, how does this do in sunlight?" And I'd be, "That's awesome. Go ahead and get it." And like I get like a minor commission on it. And like so then they would like buy it and someone that knows would be like, "That's not going to do well in the sun." I'm like, "Well, I guess we got a repeat customer." Like and I was like,
Yeah, how do you know they're coming back? It keeps dying.
and like at that point, I was like 18, 19. I just needed a summer job. And it was like the most ridiculous thing, but I had no idea what I was doing. I was giving and like
Oh,
I
that's
learned
funny.
a little from people like don't sell that to someone that's asking about sunlight. I'm like, check that one, no sunlight. Got it. Like, but like I know nothing.
Keep them in the back. Stock the
Oh no,
shelves.
eventually, no, the thing is like the big kahuna was like you wanted to sell like the shrubs and stuff like that. So if
Right.
someone was trying to buy
Yeah.
flowers, I would always try and steer them towards the shrubs. Those are easier. They just look cool. And you know, and every once in a while they would
Yeah.
definitely like I think my penalty was like they would throw me on the farm every once in a while to go and like pick some stuff. I was like, damn it, I'm dating your niece. Stop like putting me on a farm. But
Yeah.
no, but
Yeah. They're like, we're losing so much money. Get them out of
exactly.
here.
No, but that is my flower story. While you have a passion for cultivating
Nice.
flowers, I was steering people incredibly in the wrong way towards getting them. No, but
I love it.
that's really cool. And you know, and I like that. I like that, you know, that's something that you know, I would not have picked you out as a gardener. But you know what though? Also though, that gives you something to do when you're old. Like honestly, because a lot of people when we get old,
Yeah.
we like don't have hobbies, like real hobbies, right? Like you can only go play so many rounds of golf. I know some of the older golfers are mad at me for already saying that, but you can only go play so many rounds, right? You can only go do so
Yeah.
many things. Like, you know, like me eventually, you know, I'm going to very much be too senile to podcast, right? So maybe this will eventually go away. But you, a lot of people pick up gardening as they get older. You're going to have a head start. Like you're going to
Yeah.
be in the elderly community in the clubhouse being the stud because you're going to know everything already. Like you're going to be like teaching all the retirees that are trying to pick up gardening how to do it. So that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, my wife would heckle me and be like, "Oh, you're gonna go to the gardeners club this weekend, honey?" You know,
You're like, I'm going to
you know,
Sabellicos. Leave me alone. I need to go to.
right. I gotta get some new cone flowers.
Didn't you see? I need to compliment them. I saw some really cool perennials. I got to go see
Yes,
what their prices are.
they're called companion plants. No.
No, you can't put that one next to that one. The roots are going to choke it. What are you doing? Like, see, I know the terminology. I know nothing
Yeah,
about flowers. Like, I got my wife. My
nice.
wife doesn't have a green thumb either, but we try. And I made, there was like a wooden structure when we bought it, and it was incredibly heavy. So my wife's like, "Can you bring that up on the deck? I want to make it a raised flower bed." So I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I will kill my back to get this up there for you, dear." And I did.
Anything for
And I
you,
did,
honey.
and I
Yeah,
enclosed it, made it the raised flower bed, and we've been
nice.
trying to grow vegetables with mixed success. So we're trying. Ryan, we might have to have you come here to help us
Does
out.
it drain on the
A
bottom?
little bit, yeah,
Does it
yeah. It
drain on
has
the
a little bit
bottom?
of drainage.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, because it's a lot of times it's mostly like what? Well, it could be how much sun. Well,
You got to come over and you got to tell us.
I'll send you a bill. Yeah, I'll consultation. It'll be my third job. I could use another job.
That's it. Yeah, you can use, and that'll be like that. That'll be the next time what they accuse you of. Like, oh, he was trying to get votes by talking about flowers and using, and that's illegal.
Right.
He's trying to make money off of consultations with flowers.
Right. Yeah. No, he didn't. He didn't charge him for that service, so he could buy the vote.
Exactly. Oh man. So the last thing I want to do before I let you go, because you've been gracious with your time over an hour and battling through technical difficulties, I think we got it nice and smooth. So I'm happy. Um, you mentioned your wife and how important she is. Talk a little bit more about your overall support system, your wife, your kids, anyone extended, any mentors or people important to you that have allowed you to, get this position and now attempt to go at it again.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, my wife is number one. She's amazing. It's funny. We used to joke about our neighbors who had 3 kids, and we would say like, why do they even have a house? They're never home. And it was like a revolving door. The car would pull in, a kid would jump out, another one would get in, and then boom, they're back out again. And I'm like, oh, that's us. We got 3 kids. Like that's what we do. But I'm out at a late meeting, or there's a lot of even like work. I go to a lot of not-for-profit events, or if I'm not, I'm going to an event for the legislature. So there's a lot of after-hours things that I'm doing, and so yeah, she's and just moral support. Like she's there to listen to me, and I'll talk to her about some things that we have going on, and so she's a great sounding board. So yeah, I couldn't do it without her for sure.
Real quick,
and
do
really
the kids stop asking why isn't Daddy home tonight? Because my 2 young ones, 7 and 5 already, I'm not even in. I'm campaigning, and they're like, "You're gone again." And it's like, I work late some nights, and then other nights I'm doing things, and it's like, it's hard to explain. Like I'm trying to do it for you. It's like mine are young, mine are 7 and 5, so it's like it's hard to explain that, but. When does that question go away? Because it does pull at the heartstrings. Like you're gone again. It's tough.
So not only do they stop asking, if you're not doing something, aren't you going somewhere? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna hang. And then they get excited, right? But I get a little nervous, like, aren't you going somewhere? I'm like, do you want me to go? They're like, no. Like, we want you to stay.
My thing is, I do still coach them in soccer. I coach both of their soccer teams, and like Saturday mornings, like I'm coaching.
That's great.
So it's not like I'm gone, but it's like I get it. It's been a big change since I started campaigning like that, and I can imagine you went through that 2 years ago when you first started campaigning, and there's got to be an adjustment period there.
They get it, yeah, but they do understand, and it is an adjustment. I also coached my daughter's soccer team for a time. Nice. It's one of those things like, hey, they literally said like, if someone doesn't step up, we won't have a coach for the team. And I was like, I will coach. Like, I'm not going to let my kid not play. Like, I'll figure it out. 100%. So, and I know this is totally off topic, but anyway, so I'll go down I'll tell the story anyway. So I did not grow up playing soccer. I grew up playing football. Yep. I'm not a big guy, but I held my own.
I did both. I played 10 years of football, 13 years of soccer. So I'm right there.
Okay. You get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Low
yeah.
center of gravity pays off. But
Exactly.
anyway, yeah. But I was like, hey, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it the right way. So it was YouTube videos, reading up on formations. Like if I do something, I do it all the way. I literally, my wife was like, you have to stop coaching because you're driving me insane. I was losing sleep. Over, I would like wake up and be like, ooh, okay, so this is where they really need some help. I got to run this drill to reinforce this behavior on the field. It's a different mentality. So all the credit to you. Thank God you played the sport. So you have a base of knowledge to
if you ever
go
have
off
to
of.
coach it again, with young kids, make sure they keep their shape, make sure they talk. You get them to do
Yeah.
those two things, they keep their
Yeah.
shape and they talk, they'll be a good soccer team. That is
Yes.
the basics of soccer that coaches struggle with at every single level. So you should have asked me when you started coaching. I would have told you.
Thank you. No, it's helpful. Yeah. And the reason they have to talk is because, football is very regimented. It's a play. This is what we're running. You run it to a T. If you do, if you deviate at all, the whole thing falls apart. Mm-hmm. Soccer, you're playing your position. It's more about your area of responsibility, right? Yep. So that was a learning curve for me, right? I'm trying to run it like football and move them around, right? Move the pieces around on the board. It doesn't work that way. They're autonomous. You have to. You train and practice, and then they execute on their own, almost out on the field. You can't really be coaching too much. And so I learned that would have been helpful though during that to have that.
With the similar concept of football, though, you still want them to move as a unit, right? So if the play is onto the left side, you want them to stay shape, but you want them to float central. So you want your people on the right to come more central, and then as it moves. And so it's funny because last year we did at the end of the season, I coach over at Town of Poughkeepsie Soccer over here, and we did a coaches game. And I'm in there and I go and I play, even though I'm always hurt, but I played and my goal was to not get injured. Like right now I'm nursing an ankle injury as well. So we go there and I know maybe a few coaches there, seen a few, but there's some like 20 somethings that are still really freaking good at soccer.
Yeah.
And I played naturally sweeper, center mid. Like those were my two spots, sweeper, center mid. So I drop back into sweeper, but it's like, you couldn't not hear us talking on the field. And there's a bunch of people that really never played with each other, but it's just the adults, like when you understand the game, like to the point where like I'm floating over and I'm telling my person I don't know, hey, come central. Like those types of little things are, there is similarities, right? Because in football too, something goes on, I played safety. I'm controlling my secondary. So I'm telling them if there's a formation, we're going to switch up our coverages. So there is those things on the fly, but we're getting into like a sports and coaching podcast now. But
we can take it another hour. All right, let's go.
we'll educate on that too. No, but
yeah.
But I think that these things are good though too, because I want people to also see from you and me, we are just parents. We're just people of the community as well. We have all the same wants and needs and things like that. And if you want to go talk to Ryan about soccer coaching, go talk to him. Go talk to him about football and things like that. Like it doesn't always have to be about what he's doing in the legislature. So anything else that you want to reveal about Ryan Travelpiece before we get out of here?
No, so in that vein, I will say, and it I guess this makes me somewhat unique because I'm like, I genuinely like people. I like people. I like having conversations with people. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's natural, right? We're meant to build connections with each other. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, please, if you see me out and you want to come say hi, come say hi, and I'm more than happy to make another connection, And then I always put the caveat on there. I'm like, when they're like, oh yeah, you like people? I'm like, oh, I like nice people, So, I can genuinely find something. There's more that connects us than what drives us apart. So you can always find something to connect with somebody on. So
the last thing I'll judge you for: who's your favorite football team? Because obviously you're a football guy.
I am a football guy. It is the only sport that I have time to watch, and I barely have time to watch it, but the New York Giants.
Ooh, okay. I guess that's acceptable. I'm a Jets fan, so I'm just eternally suffering. So it's like...
Well, we're in the same... I don't know how we pulled it out last week, but we did it,
How do you guys find quarterbacks? Can you teach us how to find quarterbacks? Because you guys have been able to find them throughout your history.
Does it matter when we just throw everybody away? Barkley, Danny Dimes, like, oh, hey, who wants a franchise player? Here, just call us. We'll give it to you.
I mean, listen, I was with you guys giving up on Daniel Jones. I didn't think he was going to be good. Saquon was a different story, but but here's the thing. Jackson Dart looks legit in one game, but he looked like he looked more pro ready than any quarterback the Jets have had in the last 20 years. Okay. So there's something to be said about that.
It's a team, though, Alex. I think that's the point, right? You gotta have a solid offensive line, right? If you're not giving your quarterback the time, or if that O line isn't opening up a hole for your running back to go through, so now no one's going to be biting on that play action, right? Then your receiver's not going to be open.
Blocking on the outside for like a toss pass, and that gets broken up. Like you said, 11 players need to be doing something in unison.
Right. So you got this great player. They're not surrounded by the talent that they need. Of course they're going to look like garbage, Anyway,
it is what it is. So quick question for you though, and I need to get this in because Caveat Ties is always here. Are you a movies or television fan when you have time to actually watch it?
Not really. Like I'm unfortunately, I'm sorry. I get like maybe like an hour of TV a day. I would I shouldn't say no, but yeah, so I'll do like an hour of TV a day. It's just like unwind before I go to sleep. It's usually like something on Netflix. So we were into the Yellowstone, and then that was good. But what I liked even more was the 1923 and the 1876 or whatever. The two spin-off series off of that.
Yeah.
I like those even better. We got a whole series of stuff. We're actually not watching anything now. So if you guys have suggestions, let me know.
Well, the reason I ask is because Caveat Ties, the reason why he found me, we had the creator of a app and website called Criticless. And it's the answer to Rotten Tomatoes, where it's just a community that comes together. You can put on you yourself as well. If you create an account, you can rate and put reviews on your own movies and TV shows. And then people can see it and they can respond. And it's a great community. People don't it's not like trolling and stuff. Like people will legitimately talk to you, send messages about like your review. And then you can also go and see reviews of other movies. And when I tell you the catalog is absolutely gigantic, like almost any movie, any TV show you can think of is on there. So if you have a movie that like you're thinking of maybe watching or a TV show and you're like, does it look good? Criticless is better than Rotten Tomatoes because it's the fans, the people watching it, leaving their own reviews. So I highly recommend it.
Thank you. Critic List. I wrote it down.
Yeah. Here, I'll put it up on the screen just to make sure. Here we go. Caveat Ties saying, will he be getting on Criticless? So Caveat, I did my job. Okay. Every guest, Caveat, make sure I ask because Blaine's a great guy. So to make sure that we want to get Blaine as much support as possible and have Criticless eventually surpass and supplant Rotten Tomatoes because Rotten Tomatoes sucks.
Nice.
So before we get out of here, I just want to make sure people go. If you get a chance and you want to support Ryan, this is Ryan's Facebook right here. Make sure that you jump on. And what did we do right here? Did it switch? Why did it switch? What is going on here? Go back. There we go. Hi. All right. So make sure that you support Ryan over here on his Facebook. Just go to County Legislator Ryan Travelpiece. I also want to make sure that we bring attention to his Instagram. So Ryan Travelpiece Legislator is his tag there. And, he's trying to grow it. So make sure you go there and you follow him if you want to stay up on everything that he's doing. And then lastly, if you want to dive a little more into Ryan and you want to find out some more about him, go to Ryan Travelpiece for Dutchess.com. And right here, you can see, you can learn more about him. You can learn more about where he stands on certain issues right here and things like that. So it's a valuable resource. And if obviously, if you like what you heard from Ryan's a great guy. So it's something that you should want to do. So Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Alex. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And make sure you get out and vote November 4th. Come on out.
Yes. November 4th. Come on out. And also early voting happens. When does early voting start? October?
The 25th.
25th?
25th to the 2nd.
It's this month, 25th to the 2nd, early voting. And for those in the area, one thing that we were let in, I know it's a Dutchess County thing. You can vote at any voting center now. You don't have a specific one, which is massive.
Well, so yeah, caveat to that. So
You have to be within your town.
yeah, right. So early voting, there's specific. You can go to any early voting location during early voting, and then on election day, if you're in, let's say, the town of LaGrange, you can go to any voting location within the town of LaGrange. Same thing for all the other towns. Yeah.
Yes. Which, it makes it easier because of all the questions that come into, because that was always switching and people were going to the wrong places. So as long as it's within your town, it makes it so much easier because then you can go to the one that you're familiar with. So that's big. So once again, we appreciate everyone that watched wherever you are watching from and wherever you're listening from later. We appreciate it all. I'm not going to go run through the gamut, but go make sure you do the right thing. If not, we will send Ryan after you. We'll put him back in his high school football uniform, and he will go and he will tackle you, and it will hurt because if you could see, he's still in pretty good shape. So you don't want any of that. So once again, we appreciate
trying to keep up with you.
We appreciate everyone for watching. Appreciate everyone for listening. Talk to you guys next week. Slow